So everybody, I thought I would have a look at the chart for the time of the Liverpool parade incident, which obviously happened on the 26th of May in Liverpool during the big celebrations for Liverpool's league victory. And I was quite amazed, and this reaffirmed to me the power of astrology in depicting the event at a particular time. So charts over there. Now, the first thing I noticed, I set it for 6 because the news report said this was when it was all kind of kicking off. Now, the ascendant to Scorpio, it's just gone into Scorpio when it's at its most powerful. Scorpio, of course, is the sign of, dark energies, of mystery and intrigue. And this thing is one big rabbit hole. More and more people, from George Galloway to people on the right, just looking into journalists, just not the mainstream journalists, obviously, looking at this and saying, does this all make sense? And they've uncovered a wide variety of different rabbit holes, which I'll mention a few of. But if you're really interested in a deep dive, I recommend UNN's show on, I think it was Saturday and Sunday, where that's looked into, and George Galloway mentioned it on his Sunday show as well. So Scorpio is all about intense, dramatic, explosive energies. It's potentially about extremes, extreme violence, extreme emotional reactions, extreme drama, tragedy. Often it's associated with death, and I'm interested that to reinforce the Scorpio themes, we have a stellium in the 8th house with Moon, Mercury, Sun, and Jupiter all falling in the 8th house, which also has deep-seated themes of trauma and something that's happening beneath the surface, something that is more to it than meets the eye, a mystery, secrets, intrigue, sort of unquestionable motives, right? And not only when we talk about the driver, but think about the reaction to the crowd earlier on in the day, in the incident where the driver was simply driving through the crowds. They were already getting very aggro with each other. It was very febrile atmosphere brewing already, typical of the ascendant going into Scorpio. Things were ready to kick off. So many of the crowd bashing the windows, breaking the back window, ripping the number plate off, crowding the car, and then the incident that eventually takes place. Now, fortunately, although a lot of these placements indicate tragedy and death, we hear that no one was killed, fortunately, and that injuries were severe, but very few people critically, no one with life-changing injuries, right? So the ruler of this chart, which is Pluto, being Scorpio rising, is in the 3rd house, the house of the car, right? So interesting in this chart as well is that Mars in Leo is on the mid-heaven. So Mars is the most elevated planet. It's emphasized because it's an angle. Mars is the planet of aggression, of violence, of accidents, of broken bones. So Mars emphasized, and Mars in Leo also says a lot about pride in one's club, pride in one's city, which also played a role in the atmosphere of the day, people celebrating, right? But there was a very muscular energy about that day. That's why things kicked off. Emotions were heightened because of the extremes of Scorpio, and Mars lurking there meant it was ripe for almost an incident of some nature to kick off. We also have Venus in Aries in the 6th, which again, the symbolism, Venus in Aries, the love of sport. The 6th, the house of fitness, but also an unlucky house. Now, Venus rules the descendant, and it's in the 6th house, which I'm coming to. But the ascendant in Scorpio is Pluto, and Mars on the midheaven in Leo indicates military. And this guy had a military background. He was a former Marine, a commando. There are pictures of him, or what looks exactly like him, in India, wearing a cap that says Blackwater, which back then was, when the picture was taken, was one of the leading mercenary groups in the world, heavily involved in Syria. So he's heavily involved with the military, according to both mainstream and independent sources. And then you have the fact that the ruler of the descendant is in the 6th, meaning military. So military people could have been injured as well. And I believe one of the people I saw interviewed on Sky News was ex-military. So a lot of military people involved in this. Then we also have Saturn conjunct Neptune in the 5th house. Again, the 5th house of sport, Neptune, the dream, the victory, the whole sort of living vicariously through others. That is all what sport's about, because isn't sport and supporting a team about buying into some theme that's bigger than yourself, that you ride on the back of their success and celebrate it? That's a strong theme. And a very powerful, the sun, the moon, the two luminaries in the 8th house along with Jupiter. Now, Jupiter in the 8th house could have been the luck involving that. This could have been a lot worse, but fortunately wasn't. But again, you have those dark, intense, seething hostilities that were just waiting to bubble to the surface. And we know that the government was really nervous that this was going to be something else and that people could kick off, like Southport last year. That's why they were hastening to put the news out there about who the driver was, so that we didn't have that. So again, we see during this whole chart, there was panic stations all around, and this could have gone either way. This was a very volatile system and a very volatile chart. Now, couple of things. I did see the press conference where the person from the fire department said that the car had to be lifted because 4 people, including a child, were trapped under the car. This was reported elsewhere as well. To me, it seemed inconceivable that there wouldn't have been a death given that. So I feel there was some inaccuracies in the reporting, or perhaps Jupiter in the 8th in Gemini, stories were running wild, the media weren't accurate, and perhaps there was some people trying to perhaps make a little bit more of it. Now, I also found it weird. Is winning the league such a big event that there were some people saying 1 million people and people had flown around the world? And I saw other sources saying there were more than 1 million people. I know people who go on parades and protests get carried away and they see 100,000 and they think there's 1 million, right? Because people misjudge it. But so many people saying 1 million was there. See, so much exaggeration with this whole Jupiter in the 8th in Gemini. That was a bit weird. Now, George Galloway covered the fact that there were 2 snipers on the roof, or a picture taken of 2 snipers. One appeared to be a woman with long hair down like this, and a man. And they both had what looked like, automatic weapons, whatever. I'm not sure of the term for those sort of guns. And Galloway said that never happens. If you have snipers, you always have to have a spotter with them. 1 sniper, 1 spotter. You never get 2 snipers, no spotters. It's unheard of. And a spotter is there with binoculars to survey the crowd. So he said that was immediately weird. Also, in the UK, snipers are police, and yet these people don't seem, from the picture, it's not the best picture, but they don't seem to be wearing police uniform. And they're not wearing army uniform. So what on earth were they doing there? And why were they over Water Street, which wasn't part of the parade? It was only part of where the crowd was filtering through. It wasn't actually part of the parade, and this was at the end of the parade. The other question, and David Clues had, is women policemen always have their hair tied back. You wouldn't have a woman operating a rifle with hair flowing long down here. It's also highly odd. Now, the man's name is Paul Doyle. It's a kind of common Irish name that there'd be a lot of in Liverpool. But there's also someone on Facebook, Jean-Paul Doyle, who is some sort of stuntman stroke actor. I'm going to put the details here, right, just in case I forgot all of them. He's all over Facebook, and he looks exactly the same. Then, of course, Galloway was mentioning the discrepancy between the man we saw in the car, the photographs relieved of the apparent perp, who there were no pictures of his arrest on the day, and the court drawings, which are all sort of totally different with the amount of hair, the appearance, the kind of age, which confused people initially because they said he looked far too young for a 53-year-old. So there's all that. There's the question mark over whether he once worked for Blackwater. There's some strange stuff going on with a hat, a thorn, and his former business, which I'm going to put the details of there for you to read. And let me just have a look and see if there was anything I missed out. And, oh gosh, yes, we always have this. Someone at the event said they were a survivor from the Manchester Arena Ariana Grande bomb. Is that likely? It does seem a little bit weird. Now, Jean-Paul Doyle on Facebook looks very similar. Paul Doyle, there's also a Paul Doyle in Liverpool who's a performer and a dancer, so there's a lot of confusion with these names. Now, the most widely distributed video of the event was from Vanguard Intelligence Group. You guys will know what that's all about. Why did someone remove the number plate? And someone did manage to get a shot of the, there were photographs of the number plate. People looked it up on the DVLA. It's a sort of 8-year-old car done very, very, very low mileage, which strange for a family man. So more questions than answers, as always with Scorpio. But wasn't it amazing what the chart had to say?